They say, you never truly understand the value of a moment until it becomes a memory. I learned that the hard way on the day I died. The last thing I remembered from my first life was the blinding light of a truck's headlights, the screech of tires, and the bitter taste of betrayal still lingering on my tongue. I had just walked away from Judy, my girlfriend of 3 years, after catching her wrapped around another man. The woman I loved, the woman I treated like a queen, had looked me in the eye and told me I was overreacting. Then she laughed. That laugh, it was the last sound I heard before my world went dark. And then, somehow, I opened my eyes to find myself lying in my bed. My old apartment. My old room. The same chipped desk in the corner, the same crooked curtain rod I had meant to fix but never did. And most importantly, the same date blinking back at me from my phone. 3 years ago. The exact day I found out about Judy's affair. For a long moment, I just sat there, the air caught in my lungs. My hands were trembling not from fear, but from an overwhelming rush of emotions. I'd been here before. I'd walked these steps, lived these hours, and I knew exactly what came next. This time, I wasn't going to let it happen. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My face looked the same as that broken man who had begged Judy to treat him better. The same man who endured the manipulation, the guilt trips, the way she'd twist every argument until I felt like the villain. Not anymore. I splashed cold water on my face and took a deep breath. My mind was strangely clear. The ache in my chest was still there, but it was different now. Like an old scar you can touch without flinching. My phone buzzed. A text from Judy. Judy. Hey, babe. Don't be late tonight. Tonight. I remembered this night vividly. She had invited me to a casual dinner at her place. But it was the night I would accidentally overhear her talking to Peter. Her other man. I typed back quickly. Can't make it. Just 2 words, but they felt like cutting the chain that had bound me for years. The hours that followed were strange. My body moved through the motions of my old routine, but my mind was somewhere else planning. I knew every high and low of the next 3 years. The betrayals, the fake apologies, the nights I cried alone. This was my second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. I didn't confront Judy immediately. No, if I did, she'd turn it into a drama and make herself the victim. I'd seen that play before. Instead, I went silent. My replies became short. My availability, scarce. By the 3rd day, she was calling me constantly. By the 5th, she showed up at my apartment. Jack, what's going on with you? She demanded, standing in my doorway like she owned the place. I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. I've just been busy. Thinking. Her eyes narrowed. Thinking about what? About us. That made her shift uncomfortably. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said evenly, that I've realized I've been giving everything to someone who doesn't value it. Her face flushed with anger. Oh, so you're starting this again? The whole, you don't appreciate me speech. No speech, I replied, stepping back into my apartment. Just facts. I closed the door before she could respond. My heart was pounding, but for the first time, it wasn't from fear, it was from the thrill of finally taking control. That weekend, I booked a trip. A small coastal town several hours away. In my past life, I'd never gone, not because I couldn't afford it, but because Judy had guilt-tripped me into staying every time I wanted to travel. Why would you go without me? She'd ask, with that wounded tone that made me feel like I was abandoning her. Not this time. The moment I stepped off the bus and felt the salty breeze on my face, something in me shifted. The weight on my shoulders loosened. I spent the first day exploring the narrow streets, the little cafes, the sound of gulls calling overhead. And that's when I saw her, Emily. She was sitting on a pier, sketchbook in her lap, her long hair dancing in the wind. There was a calmness about her, the kind of peace that drew you in without trying. I don't know why, but I walked over. Mind if I sit? She looked up, and her smile was warm, genuine. Not at all. We talked. 4 hours. About the ocean, about art, about life. She had this way of listening, really listening, that made me feel seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. When the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized I didn't want the night to end. But instead of pushing, I simply said, maybe I'll see you tomorrow. Her smile deepened. Maybe you will. That night, back in my hotel room, I thought about Judy. She would be fuming right now, probably pacing her apartment and texting me passive-aggressive messages. But for the first time, I didn't care. I was too busy replaying Emily's laughter in my mind. I didn't know it then, but that meeting was the beginning of something that would burn brighter than anything I'd felt before. And Judy, well, she was about to learn that I wasn't the man she could keep in her pocket anymore. This was my life now. My second chance. And I was going to live it on my terms. When I woke up the next morning, the air felt different, not just because it was fresher, lighter, but because I finally believed it. I had a second chance. A new life had been dropped in my lap, and I wasn't going to waste it. I checked my phone out of habit. Messages from Judy blinked on the screen. Judy, Jack, don't ignore me. We need to talk. Judy, you're being childish. Judy, if you walk out, you'll regret it. I stared at the words, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. In the past, I would have replied instantly, trying to soothe her temper, to make her feel secure. Not this time. I locked the phone and tossed it on the bed. There was somewhere I needed to be, somewhere I didn't visit in my first life. Back then, after discovering her betrayal, I drowned myself in work and numbness. Now, I needed distance. I packed a single bag, jeans, a couple of shirts, toiletries, a change of shoes, my wallet. Then I left the apartment without a word. The bus ride to the coast was longer than I remembered. As we wound through rolling hills and small towns, I leaned against the window, letting the sunlight wash over my face. Every turn of the road was like a brushstroke on a new canvas. By the time I reached the seaside town of Fairbay, the sun was dipping low. The air here was different, saltier, carrying the faint cry of gulls. The streets were lined with little shops, each one smelling of baked bread, coffee, or fresh flowers. I found a small inn run by an elderly couple. The wife, Mrs. Hanley, welcomed me with a warmth I hadn't felt in years. "You look like you've been carrying a heavy load," she said as she handed me the key to my room. I managed a small smile. Something like that. The room was simple but cozy: white sheets, a small desk by the window, and a balcony overlooking the sea. For the first time in I don't know how long, I breathed without feeling like my lungs were full of lead. The next morning, I wandered into a small cafe. The scent of freshly ground coffee hit me the second I opened the door. That's when I saw her, Emily. She stood behind the counter, sleeves rolled to her elbows, hair tied in a messy bun. She wasn't the kind of beauty that slapped you in the face. Hers was quieter, the kind that pulled you in slowly. Warm hazel eyes, a faint dusting of freckles across her cheeks, and a smile that, well, felt like sunlight breaking through rain. "What can I get for you?" she asked. I should have just ordered coffee and moved on. But something about her voice made me want to stay a little longer. "Black coffee, and whatever pastry you recommend," I said. Her lips quirked up. "The blueberry scones are my favorite." "Then I'll take one. If I hate it, I'm blaming you." She laughed, a soft, unguarded sound that made something in my chest loosen. I came back the next day. And the day after that. At first, it was just for the coffee, or so I told myself. But I found myself lingering, asking questions. "Have you always lived here?" "Mostly," she said, pouring milk into a customer's tea. "Left for a while, thought the city would be more. But I missed the quiet." I nodded. I knew the feeling, how the city could swallow you whole, make you forget the sound of your own thoughts. Somewhere between morning coffee and shared stories about our worst jobs, she slipped past the wall I'd built around myself. I didn't even notice until I caught myself looking forward to seeing her more than I should have. Judy's messages became more erratic as days passed. Judy, why are you doing this? Judy, you think you can just disappear? Judy, if you don't come back, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. I didn't reply. Not yet. I wasn't ready to deal with her, not until I'd built enough strength to face the storm without being pulled under. One evening, after the cafe closed, Emily and I sat on the beach with paper cups of coffee. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving the sky painted in deep violets and golds. You don't talk much about yourself, she said. I shrugged. Not much to say. I don't believe that. Her eyes met mine, steady and unflinching. You've got that look like you've been through hell but came out anyway. For a moment, I wanted to tell her everything. About Judy, about the betrayal, about the accident, about waking up in my own past. But who would believe that? So I just said, maybe one day. She nodded, accepting the answer without pushing. That was the thing about Emily, she never tried to force her way in. She left the door open and waited for me to step through. Over the next week, my life in Fairbay began to feel whole. I helped the Hanleys at the inn, carrying boxes or fixing small things. Emily started teaching me how to make coffee that didn't taste like burnt tar. We'd go for walks along the pier, talking about books, movies, and dreams. And somewhere between her teasing smile and the way her hand brushed mine when we passed each other behind the counter, I realized I was falling for her. It scared me. Because I'd given my heart before, and it had been shattered. And yet, here I was, feeling it piece itself back together under Emily's gentle touch. One night, after the cafe closed, Emily suggested we go stargazing. We drove out to a small hill overlooking the sea, the world spread out in a tapestry of dark blues and silver. You ever wonder, she said softly, what it'd be like to start over? Like, really start over. Wipe the slate clean. I swallowed. Yeah. More than you know. She glanced at me, and something in her eyes told me she understood more than she was saying. In that moment, sitting under the stars with the waves crashing below, I made a silent promise to myself. I wouldn't waste this second chance. I wouldn't let the ghosts of my past decide the shape of my future. And for the first time since my rebirth, I felt like maybe, just maybe love was something I could believe in again. I never thought I'd feel this way again. After Judy, I believed the best I could hope for was quiet companionship, someone to share meals with, perhaps laugh with now and then. I didn't think my heart was capable of igniting the way it had when I first met her. Until Emily. It started during my trip to the coast. I'd gone there half on business, half to clear my head. After rebirth, I had been laser-focused on my career and self-growth, almost afraid to slow down in case the universe decided to throw another cruel twist my way. But the ocean air had a way of softening even the sharpest edges of my resolve. I met Emily at a small beachfront cafe. I was reading a book when she tripped over the corner of a chair, spilling her iced coffee dangerously close to my shoes. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, she said, wide-eyed, bending to grab napkins. It's fine, I chuckled, passing her one. I needed to wake up anyway. Her laugh was light, musical, so different from Judy's sharp, calculated giggle. And when she smiled, it wasn't a mask hiding ulterior motives. It was open, genuine. We talked. First, about books and coffee. Then, about travel, childhood memories, and the silly dreams we kept hidden from everyone else. Hours slipped away. By the time the sun set, painting the waves in orange and gold, I felt something warm in my chest, a quiet, dangerous hope. Days turned into weeks. Emily and I began seeing each other every day. We explored local markets, hiked up coastal trails, and watched movies late into the night. She was curious about everything, often pulling me into small adventures, a midnight walk on the beach, a spontaneous road trip to a neighboring town just for a slice of famous cheesecake. One evening, after a long day of exploring, we sat on the balcony of her small apartment, sipping wine. The sea breeze toyed with her hair as she leaned her head on my shoulder. "You're different, Jack," she murmured. "Different how?" "You're present. When you talk to me, I feel like you're actually here, in the moment. Most guys, they're somewhere else. I knew why. I'd already lived through a life of betrayal, of loving someone who treated me like an afterthought. That pain made me value every genuine moment now. I looked at Emily, really looked at her. Her brown eyes held no shadows, no hidden daggers. She was the kind of woman who would fight beside you, not against you. And in that moment, I knew I was falling for her. Hard. It was bound to happen eventually. That night, after too many glasses of wine and too much laughter, she kissed me. Soft at first, then deeper, more certain. Her hands slid up my chest, and I felt my pulse quicken. I had been with Judy for years, but it had never felt like this. This wasn't a transaction or a power play, this was connection. Pure, intoxicating connection. When we finally made it to her bedroom, it was slow, deliberate. Every touch felt like a silent promise. I want you, not for what you can give me, but for who you are. By the time dawn broke, we were tangled together in the sheets, breathing in sync. I hadn't just shared my body with her, I'd shared the part of me I thought had died in that accident. Weeks later, I returned to the city, Emily with me. I was ready to start a new chapter, but reality has a way of catching up. The moment Judy saw us together, her eyes hardened. "This is a joke, right?" she said, cornering me in the hallway of my own apartment building. "No, Judy. This is real. We're filing for divorce." She scoffed, arms crossed. "You think you can just replace me with her?" I glanced at Emily, who stood quietly behind me, her hand in mine. "I'm not replacing you. I'm choosing happiness." Judy's smile was cold. "I'm not signing anything." True to her word, Judy dragged the divorce out for months. She sent me late-night texts, ranging from pleading, * we can fix this, Jack *, to manipulative, * you'll regret this. No one will love you like I do. *. I didn't answer. Every time my resolve wavered, I thought back to my last life. The accident, the wasted years, the look in Judy's eyes when she cheated and didn't even care. I wouldn't let history repeat itself. Emily stayed by my side through it all. She didn't pressure me, didn't question my choices. Instead, she became my anchor, reminding me why I was fighting so hard to cut the last tie to my past. The day the divorce papers were finally signed felt like shedding a skin I'd outgrown years ago. That evening, I took Emily to the same cafe where we had first met. After dinner, I pulled a small box from my pocket and placed it on the table. Her eyes widened. "Jack." I opened it to reveal a simple, elegant ring. "Emily, I've lived 2 lives. In one, I made mistakes that cost me everything. In this one, I want to get it right. Will you marry me?" Tears welled up in her eyes. She nodded, unable to speak. I slipped the ring onto her finger, and the whole cafe erupted in applause. For the first time in both lives, I felt free. Planning the wedding was chaotic, beautiful, and exhausting. Emily wanted something intimate, a ceremony by the sea, with just close friends and family. But of course, Judy found out. She showed up at my office one afternoon, uninvited. "You can't marry her," she said flatly. "Judy, this conversation is over. You're making a mistake. She doesn't know you like I do." I stood, meeting her gaze. "You're right. She doesn't know the version of me who tolerated lies and manipulation. She knows the man I've become." Her eyes glistened, but she turned and walked out without another word. Looking back, I think that was the moment Judy realized she had truly lost me, not just as a lover, but as a person she could control. Emily's hand was warm in mine as we walked along the cobblestone street of the coastal town. The salty breeze played with her hair, and her laughter, God, her laughter, was the kind of music I'd thought I'd never hear in my life again. It had been 2 years since I married her, and every day, I woke up grateful. There were no games, no silent treatments, no emotional traps. Just love. Simple, clean, real. And yet, the ghosts of my past sometimes drifted in. "Judy." She had fought me over the divorce for nearly a year. At first, she claimed she still loved me, that what we had could be salvaged. Then she switched to anger, accusing me of abandoning her, like she was the victim. But when she finally signed the papers, it wasn't out of acceptance. It was out of desperation. Desperation that never left her eyes. It was a sunny Saturday afternoon when it happened. Emily and I were at a small cafe, enjoying iced coffee and a slice of tiramisu. That's when I heard the voice I'd once known better than my own heartbeat. Jack. I turned, and there she was. Judy. Time had not been kind to her. She still looked beautiful, but the spark of arrogance, the untouchable confidence, was gone. In its place was something that looked a lot like loneliness. She smiled faintly, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's been a while. Emily looked at me curiously, and I gave her a gentle squeeze under the table. Yeah, it has. I didn't know you were in town, Judy continued, her gaze flickering to Emily for the briefest second before settling back on me. You look happy. I didn't answer that. I didn't have to. A week later, I got a message. Can we talk? Just once. I hesitated, but something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe closure, agreed. We met at a quiet park, the same one where I used to bring her coffee during her lunch breaks. She sat on the bench, her hands clasped together so tightly her knuckles were white. I'm sorry, Jack, she said immediately. For everything. For taking you for granted. For cheating. I let the words hang in the air, but I didn't interrupt. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, she continued, voice trembling. And I was too stupid to see it. I thought you'd never leave me. I thought you'd always be there no matter how badly I treated you. There it was. The truth she had never admitted back then. I don't expect you to forgive me, she whispered. I just needed you to know that I regret it. Every day. I had everything, Jack. And I destroyed it. I took a deep breath. Judy, I'm not angry anymore. I was, for a long time. But I moved on. I found someone who loves me for who I am, not what I can give. And I'm happy. That's all that matters. Her eyes glistened. Does she make you happier than I ever did? I didn't flinch. Yes. Without question. She nodded slowly, as if bracing for impact. Then, that's good. You deserve it. When I got home, Emily was curled up on the couch, reading a novel. She looked up with that warm smile that made my chest tighten. How was it? She asked gently. Final, I said simply. It's over. She reached for my hand. Good. Because I'm not sharing. I laughed, pulling her close. God, I loved this woman. She didn't just fill the gaps Judy had left, she built something entirely new, something better. Emily and I stood on our balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in gold and crimson. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and I wrapped my arm around her. I love you, she murmured. I kissed her hair. I love you more. For the first time in a long time, I realized I wasn't living in the shadow of my past anymore. I wasn't defined by what I had lost, but by what I had found. And what I had found was worth everything. Judy's point of view. I didn't see Jack again after that day. But I saw him in my dreams. I saw him every time I passed by the cafe we used to visit. I saw him in the couples holding hands, in the men who opened doors for their wives without being asked, in the quiet acts of love I had once taken for granted. I married Peter. He was charming, successful, and exciting at first. But he wasn't Jack. He didn't have the patience to listen to my dreams at midnight. He didn't look at me like I was his whole world. And when things got tough, he didn't fight for me. I had traded loyalty for thrill, love for ego. And now, I was left with nothing but the echo of what I'd lost. Sometimes, late at night, I'd wonder if I had just appreciated him. If I had just loved him the way he deserved. Would I be the one sitting on that balcony with him, laughing over coffee? Regret is a strange thing. It doesn't scream, it whispers. Every day, every moment. And for me, it will never stop whispering his name.